How's it going, you sexy beasts? The long-awaited Max Friendly patch has finally hit PlanetSide 2 with game update number 8. This patch is absolutely filled to the brim with weapon tweaks and changes, vehicle additions, max weapons and armor, as well as an enormous overhaul to how attachments affect each individual weapon. If you're curious about every detail contained in this patch, then I'll go ahead and link the forum thread posted by Radar X in the description below. There are a lot of individual weapon tweaks, which would just be boring for me to sit here and name off every single bit of it. I'll give you a general overview of weapon tweaks, but your best bet is to check the thread to see if your favorite weapon was touched or not. There's a lot of stuff to cover, so go ahead, sit back, grab a drink and a snack. Otherwise, relax and enjoy the show. The very first thing we'll be talking about are the latest Max editions. First of all, they've been given some very new faction-specific anti-vehicle weapons and a ton of cosmetic items as well. Sadly, the lockdown for the TR, Aegis Shield for the NC, or Zoe function for the VS have not made it this patch, nor have the flamethrowers or frag launchers. But these Empire-specific anti-vehicle Max weapons act much akin to their Empire-specific rocket launchers we were given a while back. First up is the MR1 Fracture for the Terran Republic, which is a dual rotary cannon that fires high-velocity rockets. Similar to the E540 Halberd, the rockets travel at high speeds and are designed to punch through armor. Next is the Vonu Sovereignty's Vortex VM21, which is pretty much a carbon copy of the Lancer dubstep cannon already available to the VS Heavy Assaults. This weapon will deal more damage and consume more ammunition the longer the charge is held. Finally, the last anti-vehicle weapon we're given is the NC-M3 Raven for the new conglomerate. Firing a similarly designed payload as the Phoenix, the Raven fires a laser-guided rocket to deal accurate damage to hostile vehicles. As for Max certifications, there's been a smoothing of the available items for that big hunk of armor we all know and love. If you're an avid flak armor user, the cert has been increased to a base 10% reduction in explosive damage per rank, giving up to 50% reduced damage at rank 5. Kinetic armor, the deterrent to light arms, will increase its resistance to 1.5% with each point spent in the certification. The Max Nano Armor has been renamed to Nani Auto Repair System and will now heal at a rate of 0.5% maximum health per second at rank 1, increasing by 0.25% with each rank, with a finalized 1.5% maximum health restore per second at rank 5. Finally, for Maxes, there's a few cosmetic items we're given. Thankfully, these new helmets and armor fit into the feel of PlanetSide 2 instead of the stupid skull or hockey masks. These items include the Ogre Armor, accessible to all three factions. Ogre Armor beefs up the Max in a different way than the previous composite armor while still being unique. As for new helmets, the new conglomerate gain access to the MT Regulator and Extractor helmets. The Terran Republic have been given the Golem MRK1 and Colossus helmets, and the Vonu Sovereignty have been given the Preceptor and Xenosis helmets as well. More cosmetic items are always welcome in my book, and thankfully these fit well with their factions. Next big thing we're given is the Harasser Dune Buggy, and this thing is an absolute beast. If you've ever wanted something bigger and more menacing than the Flash, while keeping the same speed and available attachments, then the Harasser is going to be the vehicle for you. Allowing a total of 3 soldiers to ride in it, the Harasser is built to be its namesake, a harassment tool. Reaching high speeds as the driver, suppressing enemies as the gunner, and blowing shit up as a Max from the rumble seat are just a few things this buggy can do. Available certs for the Harasser are the same as the Flash, save for the Wraith Cloaking module. But, as an added bonus, the Harasser has access to the Gate Shield Diffuser tool, allowing the vehicle to pass through vehicle shields that would otherwise stop it. The available weapons for the Harasser are the same as any main battle tank's secondary weapon, save for any Empire-specific weapons. Available weapons include the Cobalt and Basilisk machine guns, the Fury grenade launcher and Bulldog shotgun, Walker and Ranger anti-air weaponry, as well as the Halberd anti-vehicle rocket launcher. Luckily for us, there are some cosmetics available right off the bat for the Harasser as well. Only cosmetics we're given though are the standard under chassis lights and the newly implemented Lumifiber trim. Overall, a new vehicle being added to PlanetSide 2 Arsenal is always freaking awesome, especially when it's one you can do some crazy stunts with. I might just have to retire my trusty old flash and resort to spawning a Harasser Buggy every time I want to get somewhere in a hurry and with some firepower. If you love yourself some rolling thunder, then this patch has given them some more beef. Vehicles have been touched up, but this patch has been a very large focus on tanks. First and foremost, armor plating has been increased by a small amount for all available tanks, including the Lightning. This change will increase tank survivability from anti-tank rounds to the front and side by 1 additional hit, while also increasing the armor on the rear of the tank to withstand 1 or 2 more anti-tank hits as well. With the change to base armor of tanks, some certifications for front or side armor plating have had their numbers adjusted to bring them back in line with the new change in order to smooth out some inconsistencies between faction tanks. Since armor on tanks have changed, SOE has implemented a new weapon vulnerability type to tanks as well. The first new resist type given to tanks is the 30mm armor piercing resist, which will cause tanks to be slightly vulnerable to the damage dealt by specific weapons, which are the Shredder and Tank Buster weapons available to the Liberator. The next resist type implemented is the armor piercing round resist type, which will cause tanks to be vulnerable to anti-armor weapon types, such as the Lightning's Python, the Magrider's Supernova FPC, the Vanguard's Titan 150 AP, the Prowler P2 120 AP, anti-vehicle failings turrets, and even the Liberator's C150 Dalton. All of these weapon resist types are in place to bring these weapons more in line to the damage they dealt prior to the additional armor tuning of tanks, so don't expect these weapons to be any less or more effective than what you're used to. As for the performance of these secondary weapons for vehicles, there's not much of a change. The Basilisk and Drake have had their Cone of Fire bloom removed, but have had an increase in their Cone of Fire. Final thing to note on these weapons are the pivoting angles have been further increased in both up and downward elevations, meaning you can look up much higher and down much further in most secondary weapons from main battle tanks or whatever they're mounted on. On to some infantry changes, and holy crap, there are a ton of them. To further emplace weapons within their defining roles, SOE has done a massive cleaning up of weapon stats, attachment changes, and class roles as well. One thing to note with this are weapon equip times. Generally, all weapons will equip about 10% faster, save for light machine guns and sniper rifles. Also, nearly every single weapon have been fine-tuned individually, and since there are so many freaking weapons in PlanetSide 2, I'll just let you hunt within the patch notes thread to find if your weapon has been changed or not. No damage values have been touched, but accuracies, reload speeds, and recoil have been altered, as well as available attachments such as high velocity ammunition. So the 6x magnification scopes now have weapon sway, similar to sniper rifle scopes. No longer can use a battle rifle with a 6x scope extremely easily. Since sway has been added to the 6x scopes, stabilizing through holding your breath has been added too. Also, the maximum time your character can hold their breath has been increased by 1 second to allow you to easily line up your shots. This affects both 6x scopes and everything else that has higher magnification, such as default sniper rifle scopes. Changes to the new conglomerate bouncing betties and the Vonner Sovereignty landmines have both been given lights to help aware soldiers avoid or dispose of these munitions. And I'm sure we can all rejoice with the fact that the maximum angle of looking down as a foot soldier has been increased, allowing us to deal with pesky people who can shoot up at you, but you can't quite hit them back. In regards to attachments for weapons, there's a lot to take in with this patch. Previously, all available attachments would give a flat rate or percentage to benefit the weapon in which it is equipped. With this patch, attachments have a varying degree of benefit, all of which are more profound than previously. So before, if you put a 10% recoil reduction on a weapon with very little recoil, you won't see as much of a gain as doing the same with a weapon with very high recoil. With this patch, instead of that 10% just doing 10% to either weapon, it may fluctuate up to 15 or even 20%, all while staying above the prior 10%. What I'm trying to say is that attachments are better than they were previously. Compensator attachments for the barrel slot of weapons will increase the reduction of vertical recoil on a per weapon basis. Instead of just a flat 10% reduction, each weapon will have a different recoil reduction from the attachment, which is a buff just across the board. Suppressors haven't been changed much, aside from the fact that they slow carbine projectiles by 35% instead of the previous 40%, and SMGs are slowed by 20% opposed to the previous 18%. Not much to see there. Other than those two changes, the suppressor remains untouched. High velocity ammunition has had its velocity increased across the board while giving a different statistical benefit to each individual weapon. Forward grips contain the largest change for attachments, offering a longer equip time for your weapon that it's equipped, and no longer reducing vertical recoil for LMGs. Previously, you could stack both a compensator and forward grip to doubly reduce the vertical recoil of LMGs, causing most of the weapon class to have less recoil than assault rifles or carbines. With this patch, forward grips affect LMGs as they did with every other weapon class, only affecting horizontal recoil. As for the added equip time with forward grips, it ranges from 20 milliseconds to 150 milliseconds, with slower equipping weapons being penalized less and faster equipping weapons to be penalized more. If you're worried about your favorite weapon being tweaked this patch, don't worry, it's probably been touched. This patch wanted to focus more on defining weapon roles as opposed to a single weapon being the absolute best for every single engagement. T9 Carve. With this passover of weapon stats, you're going to see more weapon variation than before. If a weapon is built for long-range combat, it's probably had its recoil reduced, but with a faster reload speed. If a weapon is built for close-range combat, it might have its cone of fire increased, but with a faster reload speed. SOE wanted long-range weapons to excel at their role, as opposed to having high fire rate weapons still being stronger at longer ranges, and vice versa. In regards to our beloved pump-action shotguns, there was previously a bug that would allow a round to be chambered much quicker than stats would say, causing pumps to fire rather quickly. This bug has been fixed, and you'll now see a longer delay between firing rounds of both generations of pump-action shotguns. Next up, 2-round burst weapons such as the Saber 13 for the Terran Republic have had their first shot recoil multiplier nullified or even dropped below 1. Thankfully, this change has come about, giving the Saber 13's burst the ability to properly land in the same spot. Thank you. The final changes we've been given with game update number 8 are the user interface additions, and there's not much to state here. The largest of the few are the fact that you can change soldier and facility or objective colors independently of each other, allowing you to customize the color palette of friendlies and hostiles, while also changing the way the map looks. In regards to facility captures displayed on the map, there is now an animated bar displaying whether one team is losing or capturing a facility by either going to the left or right depending on the situation. The vehicle stats page should now properly display both ribbons and medals for each individual weapon per vehicle. Last but not least, we're given the ability to preview items that are contained within a bundle instead of having to hunt down the individual items in the depot and preview them there. So that's all the major changes in game update number 8, and there are plenty of little changes that I'm sure I didn't mention, but this video is long enough already. Once again, I urge you to check out the forums for yourself and look for your favorite weapon to see what is changed to it, or if there's a weapon change that will suit your playstyle better. Are you guys liking the Harasser Buggy or perhaps the new max weapons? Let me know in the comment section below, or let me know what you've got planned for Friday night. Whatever it is, I'm sure it is pure awesome, just like you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a big ass thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs it down and let me know what I can improve on. Please guys, it helps a lot. Want to see more videos like this? Go ahead and subscribe. It is completely free.